Let's now look at task 2. So on task 2, if you read in the activity the learning points, do read it. You do need to learn this stuff. It'll explain to you a little bit about what an external CSS file is. So what we're going to do in task 2 is create, first of all, the HTML page without the CSS, without the styling, see what it looks like, and then we're going to create the CSS page, the separate external CSS styling page, link the two together and see what the effect is. So to start with, so I'm on task 2 and I've got this code here, so I'm going to copy this, I'm going to paste it into Notepad. I'm going to keep the previous activity. I'm just going to do File New. All it does is give me a blank window, workspace. Copy it in, change the language to HTML just so I can see things. You can see this is much the same as the previous activity we did, except it's got this additional line here. We're going to look at that a little later. Let's just save this because it's just the plain HTML, and we need to save it as task2-external CSS.html. So let's copy that, go back to where it is. So I want to save this. It's in the right folder this time. Paste the name, task2, save it. Let's have a look at what it looks like. Let's not find it. Task2 external CSS. Now when I display it, the browser, Chrome, displays the HTML and it hasn't got any styling because there's no styling in the HTML itself, and as yet we haven't created the CSS file as the comment says there. So there's no styling associated with this page. It's using what's called browser default styles for the fonts, for the text, and the size of the text. Let's go back and let's add in the CSS file. So what we need to create now is we've got this link tag here. This is in the HTML. It's basically telling the browser link to this particular file, and the file it's going to link to is one called task2.css. So when the browser opens up HTML, it looks for this task2.css. We haven't created it yet, so I couldn't do anything. We couldn't use it, so it just displayed the text using the defaults. But now we're going to create this and see what the change is. Let's go back to the activity. We're still on task 2, and the next thing we've got is the code for the CSS file this time. You notice the code looks different because it's now CSS rules, not HTML. Copy it again, put it into Notepad++, once again in a new window. This time I'm going to change the language to CSS, surprisingly enough, because that's what it is. And it just highlights various things in there, but it's going to help when we save it. Let's save it again. Now it's very important that the CSS is saved into the same folder, so I'm saving it in the same folder as the HTML page that it's linked to, otherwise the browser won't find it. Let's just check what name we need to give it, and it's, of course, it's called task2.css. It must be exactly spelt that way, otherwise this won't work. So let's call it that. You'll notice because I've changed the language to CSS, it changes the file type as CSS, so we're fine with that. Let's just press save. So now we've got both things in place. We've got the HTML file, this is the content, what we want displayed on the page, and this HTML file is linked to an external CSS file called task2.css. That's this file here. We've saved both of them. Let's go back and let's display the web page. It's no different, it's the same web page, but now we've got the CSS file as well. So we double click on the HTML file, not the CSS file, the HTML. Task2 external CSS, double click, and where it wasn't styled before, it's now styled now. I didn't realise it was that horrible, but it's only an example. So it's a yellow background, red text, all centered. The CSS has styled this. That's basically it for activity CSS2, so go and do the same thing in your own system, and then we'll look at the third activity.